Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask Angela to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Thank you, Tom. Tangney, present. Sampu?
Present.
Lee?
Present.
Koshulik?
Present.
Hearn?
Present.
DeMello?
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh?
Present.
And did Ed sign in yet?
Not yet.
Okay, we have a quorum, Mr. Chair. We have 6 commissioners present. Thank you.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April the 28th, 2026, at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Francisco Vargas, Stephen Madden, Pamela Brandon, Marissa V. Scarzos, trustees, Greg Bay Trust, Scott Miller, DLDS Development Group, LLC. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending an email request to @hoops@230 South Street, Hyannis. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this hearing. Hearing none, tonight's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisements. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extend certain COVID-19 measure adopted during the state of emergency signed by the governor on March 28, 2025, suspend certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised by Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 881-1552-8632 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. 3rd, the public can also email the comments to edwin.hoops@barnstable.gov at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Please note the remand NOI for Bluefield LLC has requested for a continuance without testimony to May 12, 2026. For your information, we have a good friend, Mary Lou Fair, of the town's legal departments. Unfortunately, she passed away over the weekend, and she has been very helpful to the Conservation Commission and the Conservation Divisions. Can we stand up and take a moment of silence in the memory of Mary Lou? Thank you. Tonight we have 5 NOI. The first one is Francisco Vegas proposed the in-ground pool, pavilion, and the patio at 54 Circle Drive, Hyannis, as shown on the assessors map 288 parcel 036. Brett?
Yes. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with Environmental Consulting and Restoration, here to present to the commission the notice of intent for 54 Circle Drive. Okay, if I share my screen and pull up the plan?
Yes, please. Is Ed with us too? Yes.
He's having a hard time getting in. He's having connection problems, so he's gonna shut down his computer and try again.
Okay, thank you.
He just texted me and said, tell the commission to approve the project. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yeah.
So the property here at 54 Circle Drive is right off the west side of the cul-de-sac. There's an existing single-family home. There's a lawn area that's maintained to approximately the bordering vegetated wetland. The wetland is associated with Simmons Pond. So we have the bordering vegetated wetland here that's designated in this blue line. There's the 50-foot buffer zone here in blue and the 100-foot buffer zone here in red. What we're proposing is a proposed pool with the associated stamped concrete patio to surround it. Proposed pavilion here, all occurring within existing lawn area. There's also a small proposed second floor deck off the rear of the house and removal of this small deck at the rear of the house in preparation for this other second floor deck. In order for us to comply with the the Barnstable Conservation Commission's mitigation policy, we have to revegetate the 50-foot buffer zone. So it's a significant buffer mitigation project. We're restoring the buffer so that it accomplishes a vegetated buffer out to the 50-foot buffer strip. I did coordinate with Ed by phone end of last week, and he had a few minor comments that I did include on this plan, which I can show the commission.
Yes, please.
One was that he asked for a date on which we delineated the wetland. So we delineated that on October 29th of 2025. We had previously included a pathway here through the mitigation at 5 feet. Ed said that that was not appropriate and it should be 4 feet. So we revised that to 4 feet. We also added a little bit more detail regarding the proposed conservation posts. We were proposing conservation posts. They're a little bit faint in this orange square here. Ed did say that there's a policy that's on the website that has a lot of different alternatives that might be possible, and that it could reference that for the conservation posts. We're proposing posts, but I noted that alternative per the requirements of the commission. So with that, the project maintains more than 50 feet from the edge of the wetland, very close to 50, but maintains no disturbance within the 50-foot buffer. Work occurs within the yard area, and you can see that in order for the applicants to move forward with this project, they're moving forward also with a significant mitigation plan to revegetate that 50-foot buffer. There are no rare species or flood zones or other areas of concern on the site. And with that, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Thank you. Angela?
Yeah, thank you, Brad. I appreciate too the mitigation going across the entire resource area. We're very appreciative for that. I noticed on your plot plan, there's a section called a foundation. So is that a buried concrete that's going to be under the mitigation? Are you going to remove that?
It's more of, there's more of a small kind of foundation wall, the remains of a foundation, maybe a shed historically. Yes, good point. It would probably be best to remove that so we have a better planting base. So we would remove that as part of the mitigation project.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question, and I appreciate the other changes that you made.
Sure.
Bill?
I like the mitigation plan, and I also like the idea that Angela had of taking the foundation off. So I would second that you remove that. The question I have, or comment I have, is that it's an irregular the 50-foot line is a very irregular line. And it's important that in the future, you're not mowing it or, trampling down the mitigation zone. And it is, for in perpetuity. The stakes that you have with those little orange boxes are pretty good at delineating it. I just hope that what we end up with is something that is going to be really obvious. Could be a fence. It could be lots of little posts. But I hope you're able to, have a pretty good delineation of that 50-foot line. That's my comment. Thank you.
Sure, we intend to, as we propose them now, they would be 4x4 posts with signage. They could be boulders, they could be another alternative that the commission seeks. And you could do that as a special condition or prior to the installation, coordinate with the conservation office. So that it is intended, obviously, to demarcate the area so there is no encroachment into it.
All right. Thank you.
You can work with Ed to pick whatever the demarcations type that you want to do, the stone, the post, and that sort of thing. But just to make sure that the homeowner is aware that they cannot go in and mow the mitigation area.
Correct.
The other things too, we probably need a revised plan just to show that, as we were just talking about removing of the old foundations, plus you need to show the demarcations on the engineering plan as well.
Yes, we'll do.
Rob, I saw you. Do you have any comment?
No, I mean, the biggest comment I have is the delineation, like Bill said. I really like that effect of the 1 foot fence, single rail. I just think that really delineates the area and stops anybody from going through or any machine going through. I just think it's a really nice look. Otherwise, it's great. I mean, is there a pathway all the way to the water already, or do you have to make one?
Well, there's a path right now. It's lawn up to this is the brush line now before the BVW.
Right.
There is a path now that leads to the pond. We're just gonna maintain 4 foot wide path, that won't be planted and seeded as part of the mitigation package.
So that's going to be like a turf?
It is now. We weren't proposing to change it. Just leave it as it is, as yard.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
Any other question from the commissioner? Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
What's it? You want to say something? Oh, Pete?
No, I'm good. I'm just making sure my technology is good enough for me to vote.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, before we vote, is there a 3-year monitoring period for this? So that after 3 years?
I'm going to mention that before I go to vote.
Okay. Yeah.
So, Brett, besides the demarcation line, we also need an annual report for 3 years. That is a kind of standard conditions for the mitigation planting area. Is that okay?
Yes, understood. That I anticipate that would always go along with this type of project to ensure that it's successful.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the demarcation line on the engineering plan and an annual report for 3 years?
And the removal of the foundation.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm sorry, guys, did we do public comment? I missed that.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Let me try it again. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the demarcation line and the removal of the old foundation, and then the annual report of 3 years?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Tangney, aye. Sampu,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
and DeMello.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Go.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Is Ed with us too?
You still can't get in.
Let's hear it for Zoom.
Well, let's go to the next one, and then we'll go from there. The next one is Stephen Madden's to reconstruct and extend existing permanent pier, replace ram and float, relocate kayak rack, and provide electrical and water services at 95 Eel River Road, Osterville, as only assesses map 116 parcel 121. Arlene?
Good evening, Arlene Wilson, AM Wilson Associates, here for the Maddens together with Brian Wall. So let me try and share my screen.
Okay.
There we go. So this is the pier at 95 Eel River Road. And I know that plan is a little bit confusing. So what I've done is to take a copy of it and color up the existing pier, which extends about 69 feet from mean low water as it exists today. And let's see. Here's the proposed pier, and it will extend to 100 feet beyond mean low water, should you decide to approve it. We've done this predominantly by extending the length of the ramp to 26 feet and 25 feet, and the ramp, the float to 25 feet, so that in the off season, the pieces that are still in the water will only be about 14.5 feet more than what stays in the water currently. In addition to that, the existing pier has 10-inch diameter piles 8 feet apart. And we are proposing to extend the bent section. We'll take out the old piles, and the new piles will average 14.3 feet apart. So as not to unduly exceed the impacts of the existing pier. Because the area is rated at 10 for shellfish habitat, we've spent some time analyzing shellfish densities and habitat conditions in the area. In the winter of 22 to 23, we had Dr. Pam Newbert and her team from Megalodon Environmental look at the area. Let's see if I can get back. From the pier to the north, including the proposed pier and the 2 abutting piers to the south. So that's an area of about 300 linear feet, and out about 130 feet. That was to help us try and decide whether there was some area on the site that might actually be better, that is to have fewer shellfish impacts than the position of the existing one. She looked at a total of 451 square foot sample plots. And she found only 93 quahogs and 3 soft shell clams. That's a density of about 0.22 animals per square feet. In the summer of 2024, we had Paul Caruso do a follow-up study. His study focused predominantly on the area of the Madden Pier. He also did the area, the Random Pier at the same time, but he didn't look at the broader area. His results were quite similar to those that Pam had found a couple of years before, both as to bottom characteristics and the shellfish densities. Neither of the studies, by the way, both of which looked at what was growing on the piles and the floats and bottom. Neither of those assessments found invasive tunnicus. Then we looked at the shellfish study that had been done for the Butcher Pier at 105 Eel River Road, which is just to the south of the study area. It also showed very similar bottom conditions with densities of about 2.7 animals per square foot. We then went back and looked at the town shellfish report from the installation of the original pier at 95 Eel River Road. That was done by Tom Marcotti, the previous town shellfish biologist. And again, he found very low densities. And he cited a yet previous study in the area from 2005. It too had very similar results, very low densities, even though bottom characteristics were reasonably good. So this gives us a 20-year historical record of decent habitat characteristics, but very low population densities in the area. There's essentially no recruitment that was found in any of these studies. That is, there are no young animals, young shellfish. So that would be consistent with the fact that for years, the area has been part of the town put and take program. That is, the town stocks the area with shellfish that they grow so that it essentially guarantees recreational shellfishermen in the area will have a good harvest. The current shellfish report that was done by Elizabeth Lewis, who I think I saw on the call, confirms the stocking program. Her animal densities show as marginally higher, but she also showed essentially no recruitment in the area of the Madden Pier at 95 Eel River Road. So it's interesting to note that despite a very significant increase in boating in the area, that is over that 20-year period, the adjacent mooring field has grown in numbers rather significantly, and the adjacent boat traffic has also grown. And in addition to that, there are a number of additional piers north of the proposed pier at 95. And in spite of all of that, the area continues to be listed as 10 for habitat purposes. It was only a 7 on the 2001 maps. It's a 10 now on the 2011 maps, and the 2022 maps, which were published but never adopted, also continue it as a 10. So that kind of indicates that in spite of the increase in traffic and increase in numbers of boats and increase in number of piers, they're not having much of an impact on shellfish habitat in the area. In spite of that, we thought it was appropriate to try and minimize the potential for shellfish impacts to the greatest extent possible in doing the design for this pier, which we hope will be able to service a small motorboat. As I said, we've increased the bent spacing from 8 feet on center to a little over 14 feet. So that together with the very long proposed ramp and the long float allow us to minimize the increase in bottom usurpation by piles. So this design only increases the bottom usurpation by about 3 1/3 square feet, which would equate to a loss of maybe 1 1/4 shellfish based on the slightly higher densities found in Ms. Lewis's report. The wider bent spacing actually facilitates harvesting under the pier. And considering the fact that it appears the reason the town lists the area as a 10 is predominantly because of the stocking that they do. Without that, the ranking probably would be something closer to a 4 or 5. So we've extended the pier to an area that provides about 3.2 feet of water at mean low. That would allow for a motorboat with a draft of 8.4 inches, assuming that we had to meet the 30-inch freeboard requirement. If we were to do a 12-inch freeboard requirement, which my professional opinion is more appropriate for the site, we might get a boat with as much as 26-inch draft. We noted that the commission is usually concerned about turbidity impacts in shellfish areas with high rankings. And so we provided in our submission a couple of reports on turbidity impacts. And in 2005, the commission asked for a review of turbidity impacts from small motorboats for a pier project in which I was not involved. Dr. Lee Wisher of the Woods Hole Group reviewed what was a previously peer-reviewed paper by Dr. Gazinski about turbidity impacts from small boats. His conclusion, that is Dr. Wisher's conclusion, was that a small motorboat operated at no wake speed, which is about 3 knots apparently, as is the case for a properly operated boat approaching and leaving a dock, really has no significant turbidity impacts at all. This theory was tested in a pier in the Cotuit area in which I was involved, where the commission allowed a boat to be docked at a pier which otherwise would have required 30 inches of water, but then had only 12, subject to an agreement that if after 3 years the boat was having an adverse impact, the owner would trade out the boat for something smaller. We did 3 years worth of bathymetric studies and sediment analysis. And what that showed was that even at slightly less than 12 inches of free water under the boat, there was no significant alteration in either bathymetry or sedimentology. That gentleman continues to have his larger boat at his dock. And that information is included in the notice of intent as well. We do agree with some of the suggestions in Ms. Lewis's report. That is, any boat that's berthed at this dock should be berthed bow in, so that the motors are in the deepest water possible, and that the ramp and float will be removed off-season as you would normally require anyway. So with all of that information, we would request that the commission grant a length waiver for the pier to 100 feet from mean low, that you make a finding that a shellfish ranking of 5 is probably more appropriate for the area, and that you allow a motorboat with a draft of not more than 20 inches. That would give you a freeboard of about 18 and a half inches under the boat. So kind of split the baby. And that whatever boat is there wouldn't be berthed at the site until after the specifications are provided to the administrator for review. And with that, I would be happy to try and answer questions you might have.
Any question from the committee? Oh, before I go there, I think I just saw the Laserfish has town biologist Liz Lewis report. Do we still waiting? Do we have the DMF letter and all that comment waterway?
No,
No.
the DMF comments haven't come in, Tom.
Okay. So no matter what happened, we will probably need to take a continuance on this and waiting for that. Any other? Oh, Ed is with us as well too, Angela.
Yep, I got him. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Any question from the commission? Oh, one more thing. The existing pier is a permanent and without motorized boat. That is the existing condition on that pier right now. So I just want to make that distinctions. This application is to extend the existing pier and want to get a motorized boat. So with that, I want to open up the floor. Any question from the commissioner?
Yeah, I do.
Bill?
This presentation by Arlene had a lot of information a lot of information that I didn't know we were considering, like a draft of 20 inches rather than 30 inches. And I'm glad you pointed out, Tom, that this was a non-motorized dock, and now we're looking for a motorboat. My general feeling is that, you know, the extension of it to 100 feet, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a bad thing, but the idea of having a draft of only 20 inches, I have a real problem with. I think it should be 30 inches, which is consistent with our reg. And that reg was developed with scientific basis. I'd like to make a comment on the 7 versus 10 rating that Arlene brought up. And that is that I want to say it was the 2017 rating where it got a 7, and then what? 3 years?
2001, Tom, Bill.
It was what?
Sorry.
2001?
2001.
Okay, and then there was another one that was done just while I've only been on the commission for like 5 years, and we were talking about that 3 years ago or something.
Right.
Then it ended up becoming a 10. And what I found, and this will be interesting for other commissioners who aren't privy to that whole what's a 7 versus a 10, there was a panel of 10 people that the town put together, and if 7 people voted that yes, this is good habitat, and 3 people never even showed up, never even voted, didn't even say, well, we didn't even know about it. Or not that they didn't know about it, they didn't rate it. They simply, if you will, ignored it. Maybe that's not the right way of putting it. But if only 7 people said yes, and 3 people didn't even weigh in on it, it became a 7. And then later, like, if you will, 3 years ago, was it 4 years ago? Essentially 10 out of 10 people were rating virtually everything. And so the ratings ended up going up. So a 7 doesn't mean it's getting like a C or a 7. It's just that only 7 people voted. So it's kind of a little, it's hard to say. And to say it's a 5, I don't think we have a basis to say that. So I do have a question for Arlene. You characterize the site as really low density. You said, was it very low density, or anyway, characterizing it as rather low density. And I'm wondering, what's average density? What do we know about what's an average density? What's a high density? It seemed to me that it's depending upon harvest or stocking, the numbers that are going to be present is going to vary a lot. And I was looking at, I think the last NOI that we're doing tonight was a different shellfish group. And they made the point that when you're using a rake, a clam rake, bull rake or whatever, you're really not going to get the soft shell clams. They're too deep. And so therefore any characterization of the habitat for soft shell is, if you didn't find any, it doesn't mean that they're not there. So I don't know what Arlene, what's an average? What do we know about how would we know that when it's average? Because it's based on the studies we've been looking at in general, this looks like kind of a pretty good production or presence of hard shell clam.
If I might.
Yes, yeah. What,
Mr. Chairman. So Barnstable has never produced anything that says this number of animals per square foot equals good habitat or moderate habitat or lousy habitat or whatever. Closest one I think we've got is and Falmouth cites 1 animal per square foot. The problem with the habitat ranking maps in Barnstable, and you're quite right about the way the vote goes, but there's no science behind any of it. What happens is that the people on the committee were asked to assign a ranking number to various segments of the shoreline. And they had no instruction about how to do that, what might equal a 10 versus a 3. It was done predominantly on the basis of their past experience harvesting in the area, which is why the older maps have a voting problem that you cited, because often when the maps were done in the early 2000s, people who had no experience in a particular area wouldn't vote. So now we still don't have any scientific basis. We don't know what the average harvest is. We don't know how many people shellfish in an area at a particular time. It's just done subjectively on the basis of people's experience. We've been through the business of how you do a shellfish study and what kind of equipment you use to make sure that you are sampling all the varieties of animals that are there previously. In fact, Dr. Newbert was questioned on that on a shellfish study probably 15 or 20 years ago. And she and the shellfish department reviewed the way she does her sampling. And the shellfish department said, yep, her sampling method is good. The equipment she uses is good. She's going to find whatever is there. And that's one of the reasons that we had her do the broad area sampling that we did. Now, for sure, shellfish densities change over time. I would be surprised if they didn't. It's truly interesting to me that in this area, the shellfish densities have remained so stable, whether the shellfish study was done in the summer or in the winter. They seem to be reasonably the same. I know that there is a lot of shellfish harvesting that goes on in this area. That happens because the town does a lot of stocking. And both Mr. Madden and for the next project, Ms. Randon, have observed and asked people about that stocking. So Mr. Madden has observed the town on a number of occasions, throwing shellfish into the water around his pier, and then people coming and taking them out. And there's an email on the next project from Ms. Randon about a discussion that she had with a fellow who was shellfishing around her pier. And he was there because he had heard that the town stocks the area with shellfish. So it's almost impossible to say if the town stopped stocking this area for 3 or 4 or 5 years, what would the situation be? You can't tell that. So what we've done is to try and minimize the impacts while getting a structure that would allow at least some kind of motorboat for the applicants.
Arlene, I have two other questions, and I agree with you that you've done a reasonable job of trying to avoid the impact. And I guess the bottom line is that what you got is what you got, and there's a fair number out there. I wouldn't characterize it, and I don't think you should characterize it as low quality habitat or low, but it is what it is, and it is a place where a lot of people go shellfishing. The other question I have, on page 5 of the narrative, it says that the water in this section of the bay are seasonally closed due to boat density. And then it says, in the off-season, the removal of the ramp and float will allow for essentially the same harvestable area as exists currently. And so I was just curious, can you tell me more about how this section is closed? When does that happen? Who does that? And how long does it stay closed? And does that preclude shellfishing?
In the summer months, in season, based on the information we've been able to get DMF and before this year from the town, the mooring basin area in particular, and some years closer to shore than the mooring basin area, is closed because of boat density. It opens up again in the off season when the boats are off their moorings. So it's labeled conditionally closed by the state. So you can harvest in the off season, off boating season areas. This year, Barnstable, it looks like never did a closure in this area. Based on what we see, it's the first time in a long time. So they've let you harvest year round. I think the area in the mooring basin is probably deep enough and the boat density is significant enough that people aren't really harvesting there anyway. But I'm not sure about that, Bill.
Right, and my last question is, if anything, it's for Tom or Ed Hoops or maybe Pete. We have a reg that says that the length of the pier can't be more than 50% of the width of the shoreline, if you will, of the property. I think that's the reg. And I'm wondering what the basis of that is, and is there rationale for not for not allowing this thing to go out to 100 feet? I'm not sure what the rationale is for keeping it short. Can Tom or Ed perhaps help me with that? Or Pete, while you're driving. Anyway, that's my last question.
I'll jump in on that one too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been around for a long time here, through a stint on the commission before there were pier limitation regs, and then professionally since that time. My understanding is that the length prohibition is based predominantly on aesthetics and navigation. There is not essentially an environmental issue. The navigation issue got tried once, quite a long time ago, at the end of Eel River, the house that used to be Fafford. Pete will probably remember that name, John Wood, if he were here. And there was a court ruling that navigation issues should be the sole province of Chapter 91, that is the State Waterways Division. The commission subsequently amended its regulations a little bit and dumped that issue under recreation, but predominantly the navigation issues should be somebody else's. Tom, if you have something else than what I've said, please say so.
I am not sure what the real reason is behind that, but because without John here, he drafted regulations, he would have a better idea. Peter may have a better idea on that one, but we can always, I have to go back and circle back with John to find out what the real reason is. But before we go on any further on the questioning from the commissions, I see Liz Lewis is here and she raised her hand. I think we are talking about the shellfish. I think it's important to let her talk in terms of the shellfish aspect of this project and the comment from her. Liz?
Hi there. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm having some trouble with unmuting, so just bear with me. So there's a couple important points that I really want to make with this. One is in my survey of these of this site, 95 and 117 need to be taken very separately. So I'm very disappointed that the shellfish surveys done by the private organizations or companies were put together because that's diluting the data. So one of the major issues with this is we can have the data say a lot of things, right? If we have more samples outside of the actual zone and they're not coming up with any shellfish, it makes it look like there's no shellfish there. So that's one important point to make. And I have a lot more to say about 117 when we get to that. So 95, this particular area had older individuals with the population, not a huge amount either. It is very much, we do stock this area regularly. But the thing about it is, it would be hard pressed to say that we're not seeing differences in populations. We're only seeing older animals. At this particular site, we are. Now, the problem is along that shoreline, we've just had a set of soft-shell clams. And that's along a lot of the shoreline there. So a new set means that we have baby animals there. So it would be not correct in saying that we're not getting settlement and recruitment of animals. That's actually not what we're seeing. So the other part of this is I think it's important to recognize how this rating system works. So Bill was spot on with this, but I think Arlene may have misunderstood. It's not that these are experts in the field of shellfish, one way, either recreationally, commercially. They are either saying the area is significant or it is not significant. That one vote makes up 1 of 10. So if one person said it was significant, 9 people said it wasn't, that area would get a 1 out of 10. It is not an individual saying, oh, I think this habitat is decent, but not great. I'm going to rate it a 7, and then we give it an average. It is literally one person giving that point or not. So for us to say that that area, as Arlene mentioned, would be considered a 4 or 5 is actually incredibly insulting. Because 5, that would mean only 5 people said this area was significant when we're having 10 people say it's significant. And again, this is only one piece of that bigger picture. It is saying that the people out there with expertise in the shellfish field find this area significant. It could be just because the town stocks it. It could be because we see an older population there, and that's serving as brood stock, so that meaning the adult animals that are spawning, so we can have shellfish in other places. There's different reasons why people may see that as significant, and it still does count. So we're not going to hang our hat solely on this, oh, it's a 10 out of 10, because I don't think the area is perfect. And that is really what I wanted to mention through my survey. Specifically 95, we have some muddier areas. And we still plant there because it's access from the landing, because that's some of the places that people only know about this particular area. And so that's why it's pretty important to us. But it would be insulting to say that this area should be rated a 5, because we are basing this on science, on evidence. A lot of these surveys are old, so it's showing us historical data, but the newer survey should not have been put together. This area is significantly different from 117. So I think it's important that, from what I understood historically, the length of the pier is actually based on the frontage of the area of land that this person has. So it can only be so far out into the water based on frontage. And so that was the science behind it. And maybe that's a little more, I don't know, maybe that's the way that they got into having a little more environmental at it. You only get so much out because you only have so much wide. And so that was limiting how far out these piers could go. Because the farther out, we're trying to get the pier farther out so that it can tap into deeper water. The end of this pier is 28 inches of water on a low tide. So we have more than our 12 inches, but still to be able to say that a 26-inch draft isn't going to make any significant difference in turbidity is a strong statement when we know, in fact, having a motor down, running a motor in sand is definitely going to create a hole there. That's just what we know anecdotally. That is what's going to happen. So we can't say that there's no effect there. So I'm very worried about the data manipulation here. I'm very concerned that it wasn't properly surveyed for soft-shell clams. We have talked to Megalodon specifically on previous surveys, especially one that they did at Bluff Point, where they didn't even have a soft-shell clam rake there with them. So I am nervous that they're not looking for that, specifically being knowing these areas really well, like Paul Caruso knows this shoreline. He would be looking for soft shell clams. Megalodon might not know that this area is really productive for soft shell clams. So that's a little, I want to take that survey with a grain of salt there. So these are some of the things that I'm worrying about. The bigger issue here that we touched on briefly, this area has always been approved. It is currently approved. It has never shut down. Inside of the lengths of the piers have always remained approved and open, regardless what is happening in that mooring field next to it. Okay. So what we actually went to great lengths to work with Harbor Master, Division of Marine Fisheries, and the FDA. So we're talking federal now, to make sure that inside these piers are remaining open, regardless of the mooring field shutting down. So for about 4 or 5 years, that mooring field shut down because we didn't have good data yet on dilution analysis and what was happening with the boats. Are there heads on these boats? Were people staying overnight? So as a precaution, they shut down the mooring field during the summer months when the boats got to over 20 per mooring area. Now, we negotiated that the mooring field was separate from inside these docks. So we actually got everywhere inside these docks to remain open. And so you would think, okay, great. If we extend these docks out, then we have more area to shellfish in that would always forever remain open. The problem is that this is kind of a delicate subject. And if these are GPS points at the end of the pier so that this area can always remain open, should those piers extend out, now it's changing our dilution analysis of how many boats are in there, the square footage that's in there. This can open up the whole area to be shut down because those piers are getting longer, the area is getting smaller. Not only that, at a minimum, even if it doesn't, we would have to change a lot of our regulations and our maps of what could remain open. So that's challenging, and it can open up a can of worms for us. That's my biggest concern about this. I guess I'll leave it there. If you have any questions, I am listening. Feel free to ask.
Thank you, Liz Lewis. And thank you for some of the background that about the shellfish. I just want to remind the commissioner, usually we are relying on the shellfish rating maps in this area is 10 out of 10 as one evidence. And we also require asking the Liz Lewis, the town biologist, to provide another survey, shellfish survey, for this particular area in terms of this address, in terms of the pier. And we also asking the applicant to provide another so that we have different pieces of information to evaluate the shellfish conditions to make our determinations. I don't remember, maybe I'm getting old, I don't remember we artificially going down in terms of, force the rating down to adjust our depth to water requirements. And I have to go back and look what Arnie was mentioning about the sample that she mentioned that we testing, but I have to go back and read it. I just don't recall that right now at this point. But I have the more work to be done on this one. Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And I think right in that venue, thank you, Liz. There's a lot going on here. And I appreciate all the parts coming together, but I'm very concerned right now as this commissioner in that we don't have DMF and we don't have waterways that is meeting right now. So there's a lot more information I need before I feel comfortable in any way moving forward with this. Because for me, this was a change in the application from a non-motorized to motorized just tonight, which changed some of the things that I hear you talking about with a 30-inch rule for a motorized boat. So, and what's being asked now is I guess the 20-inch draft is what, Arlene, you're asking for. So for me, this is a lot more information I need to look at before I feel comfortable at all moving forward with this. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Arlene, for what you presented. And I do understand what you were saying, Bill, and I understood how the shellfish rating was going. But for me, it's a high value area. Move on. What else is happening here? And will this have long-term degradation of the ecosystem? I don't have enough information to make that decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Ed, do you have anything to add to our comment?
No, I don't have anything else to add at this point. I think you'll just have to wait for DMF comment. That should be coming in a couple of weeks. I think everybody's made some valid points, but I think we should wait for DMF and then take it up again when we get that comment.
The other one thing I forgot to ask is if you look at they look at the plan. I think normally we ask for the distance of the mooring to the proposed pier as well?
Sometimes it's the answer to that.
Yeah.
The moorings are shown on the plan. The licensed moorings are shown on the plan. It's about 50 feet between the end of the pier and the closest licensed mooring.
I think sometimes we're asking for the distance from the proposed pier to the mooring, at least for a couple of the moorings, at least show the location, distance-wise, and so forth.
Yeah, to the closest ones at least, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a couple questions, Tom?
Sure, go ahead, Bill.
Liz is out there, and she threw out this issue of the mooring area. It has a water quality problem. There's an element of water quality, possibly from discharges from the boats or whatever. And I understand that if you end up extending the length of this one pier here, or both piers that we were going to talk about in this area, that it might affect the water quality rating for the whole area, and you'll have to shut down. I think that's like a really important point, and I don't have any sense as to whether or not extending this thing, the two docks or one dock, whatever, out an extra, whatever it is, 20 feet or something. I don't know, is it 30 feet? But if we knew what the implications were on water quality and certification and the potential to shut down, that would be really important. And I know that would require some calculations on Liz's part or somebody's part. But I would think that if this was not likely to cause a shutdown, very likely not to, if you will, that's an important thing that we would want to know. And then the other thing is that given the quality of the habitat, I think that the 30-inch minimum that we have under our regs is, personally, myself, speaking for myself, I'm going to go with that 30-inch, and we're not downrating this thing to a 5, not happening. And so can the applicant deal with a 30-inch depth in terms of what size a boat they would have or what have you? I think that's an important consideration. Can you live with a 30-inch? Because I don't see that happening, getting a 20-inch clearance here. So that's two questions. What are the water quality impacts, and can you live with a 30-inch? Thank you.
Liz, can you answer the first question about the water quality one?
Yeah, so we are not part of that dilution analysis. That comes from either the state or the feds. And the tricky, I don't know how to put this, like, to not possibly get in trouble. The problem is, if we ask, then they're going to look at it closely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So What they're basing this off of, and I don't want to give you too much information, but what they're basing this off of is they're saying, okay, we have X number of boats. The feds changed the definition of a mooring field and all that. So they're saying we have this number of boats. They are literally assuming that 2 people are on that boat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they are pooping all the time. And they're saying that because of that, the fecal coliform count is whatever it is. We know that to not be true. Also, all the water sampling that I've done with the state also shows that the water is clean. But this is the assumption that the FDA is making. So they're doing this dilution analysis based on 2 people per vessel in this amount of water. And so what they're saying is we've drawn this imaginary ring, and they're saying based on this, there's this much water. Now, last year, they accepted us saying, okay, we have this data that these boats that are moored here don't have a head. There is no overnight occupancy on these boats. And that's how they said, okay, we can keep the mooring field open during the summer. So what happens is if we want to redraw this line, because these piers are going to extend out, it would change that calculation that comes in. So you and I both know that this water quality is actually always good because the sampling always comes up. But FDA is going by this strict guideline of these number of people on the boat and all this stuff. And so it would change that analysis of it. And it would be opening up a lot that they would say, well, you know what, the shoreline shouldn't have been open up anyway. I don't know how you guys came up with the end of these piers to be able to keep the shoreline open. We're going to shut the whole thing down. So that's the kind of fear. And that's what we worked with DMF and Harbor Master to get so we could get inside the pier to remain open for shellfishing, because it is clean, but it was an arbitrary line to begin with, and now we're going to be moving, and so now it opens up the whole thing to be under a microscope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yes,
Tom?
that's helpful. Arlene, I think, Arlene, in terms of the boat, even with these applications, one of the things that, I would probably put it is like, we can determine the depth requirements, but without the boat spec, you still have to come back. I don't want to leave it as to add to look at the boat spec and meet the draft requirements. That's what I'm thinking. So
We'd be happy to come back with either revised plan filing or an amendment for the commission to look at it. But until we know what the commission is going to do, it's hard to pick a boat to fit a situation.
No, I understand.
In terms of what Liz was saying about the water quality and the closure issues, I know that there are localities where they actually have regulations that prohibit flushing of heads while boats are on moorings. And that is one of the things that the Fed has looked at in the past to determine the water quality issues and closure regulations. So that might be something, I don't think we have that now, but it's an easy thing to do, especially since most of our mooring areas are relatively small boats and people don't stay on them overnight.
Yeah, we've been trying this for a long time. We've been trying, we have tried everything. We have looked at that. It is simply the way the FDA is reading the regulations. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that these boats don't have heads most of the time. Even with data, I mean, we have pump out regulations. They're not allowed to flush them in here anyway. And that actually hasn't made a difference, unfortunately.
Right. Okay. And one last call for the commission. Any comment or question from the commissioner? None? Channel 18, any public comment on this one? Oh,
Seeing
Angela,
none.
your hand is up.
I just wanted clarification. If Arlene is going to request a continuance, she's going to come back with, and I may have missed this, the application will actually state that this is a motorized boat, so it's a change from a non-motorized pier to a motorized pier. The request for how many inches her draft is going to be, like, I kind of need it bulleted out. This is going to have a lot of information, as you can see, just talking about the shellfish area. So I'm asking Arlene, would it be possible for you to draw out and bullet what you're actually asking for in your application a little more clearer for someone like me? Thank you.
Certainly.
So, Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Arlene, how much time do you think you need for the DMF letter? Comment.
Your guess is as good as mine, Tom. Let's see. What's your second meeting?
Well, the next meeting is May 12th, and then the following one is May 19th.
Okay. Let's try for the 12th. If we don't get it, we'll go for another week.
Arlene, I have a conflict on the 12th.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, I can do the 19th, but not the 12th.
And the 19th at 3 p.m.
Okay, that's still okay. Is that okay, Arlene?
Yep, it's fine with me.
Okay. Could I have a motions to continue this applications to May 19th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Cagney, aye. Sampu,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
DeMello.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The next NOI is Pamela Randon to reconstruct and extend existing permanent pier, replacing ram and float, relocate kayak rack, and provide electrical and water service at 117 Eel River Road, Austerville, as shown on the Assessors Map 116 parcel 097. Arlene?
Arlene Wilson, A.M. Wilson Associates, here with Brian Wall, representing Pamela Randon. Let's try and share the screen again. See if I can get to, there we go. The Randon Pier is at 117 Eel River Road. It is just to the south of the pier that you just slogged through from Mr. Madden. This site as well has an existing pile-supported pier limited to non-motorized boats. It's a site of about 3.5 acres. The existing pier was authorized in 2014. It has about 2.5 feet of water at low tide at the end of the pier.
Do you mind to share the screen?
I thought I was doing that.
No, you are. It's not.
Okay, let's try this again. You can't see this one either?
No.
Okay. Let's try. I'm getting a failed notice, so let's, uh-oh. Let's try this. Let's see. Of course, this is not going to work.
Ed, can you try to bring it up or no? Okay.
I can't. My computer is my work computer that gives me access to the database is not working. So I'm on a personal without ability to get into the
Laserfish.
The Laserfish right now.
Okay.
Give it one more shot.
Yeah, one more shot. If not, we just go ahead.
And it's come up as a screen share for me, which has got me. You guys know my technology capability is pretty limited.
How about the previous screen that you have on the 95?
And one of the problems is having gone to that one, I've lost the previous one too.
Okay.
Of course.
Go ahead and describe your projects. I think we know the plan, and you know.
Okay. Let me go through this. We've got about 20 years worth of shellfish studies here, as we spoke about previously. The shellfish densities that we found over that duration of time are about 2.22 animals per square foot. So a little less than a quarter of an animal per square foot. That holds true both for the study that Megalodon did that included the entire area, and the study that Paul Caruso did, which looked specifically at the area of the pier. And that's true in spite of the fact that the habitat characteristics appear to be relatively good. Now, I didn't have as much time as I would like to go over Liz's report. She clearly found more animals and more species than have been found at the site previously. The design here, similar to the design for the Maddens, proposes to increase the vent spacing from 8 feet to about 14.5 feet, extend the pier to 100 feet beyond low water, predominantly by substituting a much longer ramp and a much longer float, so that the number of piles doesn't really get increased in spite of the extra length. Here, the increase in bottom usurpation is about 1/2 square foot. The pier was designed with that kind of odd jog in it, so that we could access the little bit of deeper water. I think, Brian, did you want to pop in?
I think I can share the plan from my computer. Would it be all right, Mr. Chairman, if I try to share from here?
Yes.
Okay, just bear with me 1 second.
Yep. Thank you for your help.
Is that coming up?
Yes, coming.
Good.
Got it.
Super. Thank you, Brian.
Sure thing.
So we've got this jog in the pier to get out to the 100-foot line, so that we can get just about 3 feet of water at the end of the proposed float location. Let's see. The section will stay in the water year round. is actually only 7 feet longer than the section that stays in the water from the existing pier. So not much overall, I think. This area, this is interesting because none of our studies found any recruitment here either, but apparently Liz's study did indeed find some additional recruitment in the area. The interesting thing for me in terms of what Liz found is that all of that is going on in spite of the piers. So over time, there are more boats in the mooring basin, more boat traffic, and more piers because the area to the north of these two has grown another half dozen piers in the study period. So that's between 2014 when the piers were first built, these piers were first built, and currently. And in spite of that, the shellfish don't seem to be having adverse impacts from the additional boat traffic. We talked about habitat ranking and the methodology for the habitat ranking. I would still contend that there is no science whatsoever between as a basis for the habitat ranking maps. They are completely subjective, and again, in spite of the increase in the number of boats, the amount of traffic, and the number of piers in the area, the 2022 maps, which were not adopted, still propose to continue this area with a ranking of 10. So it doesn't seem to be having a lot of detrimental impact. Again, we searched the turbidity issues. They're the same studies that were presented for the Madden Pier. They do not seem to indicate that a small boat properly operated in these kinds of sediments are going to be digging holes. I know that years ago, particularly off the south shore of Little Island, aerial photography was presented showing holes at the ends of piers and that was presented as a reason to restrict motorboats. It turned out that those piers all had very old dredging permits. And in addition to that, boats that were on those piers were 60 footers and bigger. Nothing like what will be on the pier here. We're talking about something that will wind up being small because a draft restriction will be imposed, and it'll keep them small. So the issue is whether the impacts to the resource areas are going to be significantly different and significantly worse than what's there now. We believe that that won't happen. And again, as we did with the previous project, we would ask that you grant a length waiver for the pier, that you make a finding that a ranking of 10 is probably not appropriate at this area. It should be something else. That you allow a small motorboat with a draft that will result in 18 inches of freeboard. Again, kind of splits the baby between your 30-inch requirement, your 12-inch requirement, and that no boat be berthed here until either the administrator or the commission is provided with specifications for that boat to prove that it will in fact meet whatever requirements the commission impose. And additionally that the boat be berthed bow in and the ramp and float be removed in the off season.
Are you all set?
I'm all set.
Okay. Let me go to Liz first, since she mentioned that she has some other comment relating to 117 Eel River Road, and then I'll go to the commission for the other questions. Liz?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This particular pier, the habitat is significantly better than the habitat next to it. We did find quite a lot of recruitment here. From the math that I've done and the area out from like in the field, this pier is over 114 feet long. Not only is it that long, but now we're talking about ripping up most of the old pier to completely replace it, disturbing other habitat and coming at an angle. So there's multiple things here. We have a perfectly fine pier in place, though it can't have a motorboat on it. So the areas around the pier, because these piers have been here so long, the areas have recovered in essence. We see settlement and recruitment, which is great. But these piers are still taking up actual square footage of habitat just by the nature of the pilings and things like that. That habitat is permanently removed. So we have that to factor in. But now this pier would be coming out at an angle and extending much farther out. Since this area is stocked regularly, that is going to be really challenging for me to be able to get in there with a boat and work the area to spread seed in there. So not only is it now longer, but now it's at an angle. This is complete disruption of that habitat that we're seeing as really significant habitat. It's productive. Not only, we don't plant soft shell clams. That is purely Mother Nature. So we just plant quahogs there. Historically, we have planted oysters there. The interesting thing is, even though we don't have productivity assessments, we don't have like our standards saying this area is productive. The old rule of thumb from the state of Massachusetts, when they're putting an aquaculture grant in, they say an area is productive 3 quahogs per square foot, or 3 soft shells per square foot, or 1 oyster. Now, these are like ancient, you know, that's what it used to be. And I don't think those have necessarily been updated. I think they should, because typically an area out in the wild, you're going to see 1 to 5 quahogs per square foot, 2 to 14 soft shells per square foot in an area. So what we're finding here is naturally a nice area by all standards. This one more so than the pier next to it. So because we're lifting the whole thing up, disrupting brand new habitat, going at an angle, there's just in a natural area that has settlement, recruitment, and that we stock. This pier is very long. I'm pretty concerned about this particular habitat. And I hope that's something that's considered with this.
Thank you, Liz. I got a question for you, Liz.
Sure.
With your comment, do you think that if they can keep the pier at the existing location just to extend it, and instead of having a wider span just to keep the existing post and then just extend it out, is that a better option or not?
So I hate saying those types of things because I don't think that the pier should be extended at all. However, if that is something that has to happen, if that's what, then yes, in the same footprint. 95 specifically, that one, I don't see a huge I don't see a huge problem with it being extended other than from what I did. There is a mooring about 25 feet away. Mm-hmm. And most boats come through, but waterways can speak to that. Most boats come through the end of the piers to get around the mooring field. So, but that's their concern.
Right.
So for 117 in particular, I think that's way too long. But of course, if the alternative is that we're going to extend the pier, the current footprint would be way better than lifting the whole thing up. Having said that, the reason why it's going at an angle, my assumption was because it wants to tap deeper water for a larger boat. And so if you notice on the maps, you're gaining about 4 inches of water by having that pier go at the angle. 4 inches isn't a lot, but at the same time it is. You would just need I think, okay, but non-motorized vessel, and let the area recover once that pier is put in, or make that part of the pier seasonal, something along those lines. But lifting up the whole thing to destroy more habitat is very worrisome for me.
Thank you. The reason I kind of asking the question is because I look at the water depths. I mean, Eileen, I was looking at the water depths. If you extend it from the existing pier out, you are looking at around minus 2.8, minus 2.9, maybe very close to what you have under that new proposed angle-wise. So I just, that's only my perception when I'm looking at the maps and that one. And then the other thing that I have, maybe you can ask the surveyor, is like, if you look at the from the property line extension out to the water, in 95, you still kind of, extend it out pretty straight, but even though there's a little bit angle in there, but in 117, it extended quite a bit in angle. So I need some documentation to tell me that is the correct projection of the property line in the water. Right now, I'm not sure whether that's correct or not.
If I might, both of those things, the first thing in terms of the amount of water that we'd have at the end, if the commission is to impose a 30-inch freeboard, every inch counts. And it's the difference between having, a 3.5-inch draft versus an 8-inch draft, similar to the other one. So there's that. In terms of property line extension, it's got to be 10 or 12 years ago now that the Waterways Division, as a result of a project in Marion that went on appeal, decided that there are no property lines once you get beyond low water. The state owns it all. And therefore, there shouldn't be a setback from the property line extension. In this particular case, where the property line extension resulted partially from some negotiations with the Corps of Engineers, who said that in this particular area, considering the average boat size, that they needed 50 feet, 50 feet, pier head to pier head, to allow boats to turn. That somehow got reinterpreted as 25 feet off the property line to ensure there would be 25 feet on each side. In this case, there's more than 50 feet pier head to pier head, even with this design. And these are obviously friendly neighbors. They are willing to give each other written permission, if you will, to have the pier less than 25 feet off the property line.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, just one comment. I'd like to push back on Arlene's statement that there's no scientific basis for the rating of the habitat at these docks. And I will say that as a PhD fisheries biologist, I have a degree in fisheries and wildlife biology. I had a career that was involved with habitat assessment, fisheries habitat. And I have been on a number of studies, and we call them Delphi panels, in which you would get a bunch of experts together. We would have applicants for projects, consultants, different agency people, what have you. And you get together people who would know about the quality of the habitat. And there have been papers published on this kind of technique, the Delphi panel. This is the one that was done here was pretty simple. And I remember when we were dealing with like 3-4 years ago, I suggested there could be a little more rigor involving, criteria that might be identified. As Liz said, these quote unquote experts were rating the habitat based on different things. And maybe they could have defined it, but they didn't. But that is not to say that there's no scientific basis. A Delphi panel is something that's a legitimate way of assessing habitat. And they had people who were highly experienced dealing with shellfish habitat, and they were voting essentially a yes, no. They said, yeah, no, that's good habitat, that's worth protecting. And there were other places that weren't. And how many people voted positively was the score. And so to say that there's no scientific basis is simply not true. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Let me try channel 18. Any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
This is Pete.
Go ahead, Pete.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just getting back into West Barnstable, but one comment. I am not back to my papers yet. I have personally witnessed prop dredging while waiting near undredged piers. So yes, there were images that showed dredging on the south side of Little Island, but Arlene, I'm sure you remember the Bothwell case out in Shoestring Bay. Clearly serious prop dredging with major horsepower on that. But prop dredging is a real thing, and so I'm challenging that assertion there as well. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Pete. Channel 18, you're mentioning that there is no other public comment, right?
Seeing none. Nope.
None. Arlene, do you want to take the continuance to the 19th as well?
Brian, that's okay with you?
Yes,
The
yes,
19th?
I think it's fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so that'll be fine.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue these applications to May 19th?
So move.
Second,
Roll call.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous. Continuance moved to 5/19, 3 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you, Arlene, and thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. Thank you.
And thank you,
Commissioners.
Liz Lewis. The next NOI is Marissa V. Scarsos, trustees, Great Bay Trust, proposed improvement to include a pool, driveway modifications, replace and expand existing deck and patio, and septic system upgrade at 47 Great Bay Road, Osterville, as shown on the Assessors Map 093, parcel 007. And this is, let me see, who is this?
This is John.
John.
Good evening, John O'Day from Sullivan Engineering Consulting. I'll bring up the plan for you all. This is about a half an acre of land on Little Island in Osterville. This is one of the interior lots. We are this is a flood zone only project. We have an existing house. We're looking to construct a pool, the patio area to the east side of it. There's an existing parking lot kind of between that and the street, existing parking lot, parking spaces, which would be removed and would be kind of reconfiguring into a turnaround by the front door and also a sort of side driveway coming to the existing garage door. In the back of the house, there is a small deck and small patio area, both of those getting expanded. And there is an existing septic system still passing, but we are looking into the idea of upgrading at this time while there's work going on. So as I said, this is a flood zone only. Everything kind of just being built on the ground, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Any question for John? This location in the flood zone only, like John said. And I look at the file. There is a abutter comment from 19 Great Bay Road from John and Patricia Olive, and but the question that they raise is more with the zoning questions that relate to this site. So the only comment that I want to make is that this is under the conservation jurisdictions. We don't deal with that zoning questions that you need to deal with the neighbor on this one. I think that's my comment on this one.
And just to sort of put that at ease, and I saw that they couldn't somehow see the plan if they happen to be in this meeting or watching it. That line is shown on the plan, and as I said, we're doing a pool at grade. There'll be a pool fence, which is 4 feet. The applicant's legal representation in purchasing the property has indicated that. And again, this is not zoning, and it's not conservation. It's actually not zoning. This is just a property. This is just a neighbor's thing. That restriction by statutory, whatever the legal word is, those do expire. But the applicant is kind of mindful of the neighbor's vistas and is not in any way trying to impede on that.
So thank you for that, John. Just want to emphasize this is not a conservation issues regarding to that comment from the abutter. So let me try again. Any comment from the commissioner? None? Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project as submitted?
So
moved. Second.
Roll call.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Koshulik,
Aye.
Zampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you, everyone.
The last NOI that we have this evening is Scott Miller, LDS Development Group, LLC, constructions of a dock and a float at 640 Papaneset Road, Contuit, as shown in Assessors Map 006, parcel 018. Eddie?
Yes, good evening, everyone. For the record, Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter and I Engineering and Surveying, representing LDS Development Group, LLC, and applicant Scott Miller. With me tonight also is Brad Holmes of ECR. His firm performed the wetland delineation and the shellfish and eelgrass survey. With that, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, can everybody see the plan okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this is 640 Pompanes Road in Cotuit. Existing single-family home in the lot that was approved by this commission about 1.5 years ago or so. The property is proposing a new permanent dock. Just real quick, from an existing condition standpoint, I'm going to zoom in slightly. If you get a chance to get out to the site, there are remnants of some stairs, which I've highlighted in red here, and there's also an old remnant of a platform. Again, not any permits that I saw, but just wanted to point out that there were stairs going down the coastal bank, and some type of platform that, you know, maybe had some type of pier or something in the past. So we have cited this new dock and the stairs in that location. So those existing stairs will be removed, which they're stairs that are cut into the slope. The stairs that are being proposed will be suspended above the coastal bank. The design of the dock is in accordance with Chapter 703, the private docks, your commission's policy. We have provided, I'm going to slide up to the corner here, we provided the necessary distances as defined in that Chapter 703 to adjacent docks, moorings, etc. Here's the proposed dock. Here's your distances to, we have an existing dock on either side of us. Again, here's our lot. You can see 107 feet, 92 feet. Now we have some miscellaneous moorings, the closest being at about 87 feet right here. So we show well past the requirements of 200 to 300 feet. So we went out to at least 300 feet to identify everything. That the dock proposed is 4 feet wide with through flow decking. The length of the boardwalk across the salt marsh to mean low is approximately 39 feet. We then have 28 feet of dock plus then ramp and a 10 by 20 float. So the distance, including the ramp and the float past mean low of the dock is approximately 50 feet. The pier, there's the shellfish study that was done by Brad. There was a narrow band of soft shell clams up near the mean high water, kind of in this area, very, very narrow band. So with this design and where the boat would be, this is for a motorized craft, the float and the boat is well removed from that band of shellfish that was defined in the shellfish survey. We have approximately 4.3 square feet of impact to the ocean floor by all the posts, and approximately less than 3 square feet of impact that would be within the shellfish area. This does include, obviously, new steps going down the coastal bank. Again, as I noted, that they will be constructed so that they're suspended above the coastal bank, so all the vegetation will remain, other than trimming out within the stairways, the 4-foot width of the stairways. Alongshore access is provided by the stairs shown here. Again, this is the mean low water line here that you're seeing highlighted in blue, and here is the mean high water line. So with the water depth out to where we have the float, we have approximately 29 to 30 inches of water at the float at mean low, with maintaining 12 inches of water below the draft of the boat with the prop down. That leaves us an allowable draft of about 17 to 18 inches. A boat anticipated, again, it's still, this lot is for sale. So there's not a specific boat identified yet, but a typical boat along the lines of a 15-foot Montauk whaler or similar is what we would anticipate being proposed here. That style of boat has, with the motor down, has a 15-inch draft. So that's less than the allowable 17 to 18 inches of draft. So again, that meets the Chapter 703 requirements. The final boat selected would be, assuming that this is approved, final boat selected would be provided to conservation staff for approval that it meets the conditions of the order, again, if this is approved. And I believe from we have, obviously coastal bank, we have land subject to coastal storm flowage, salt marsh, and then land underwater. I believe this pier design meets those performance standards. We have received a letter from DMF yesterday, so hopefully you have that in your file. And we also received approval from Waterways just tonight. There was a meeting at 6 o'clock just before this, so that was approved at that meeting as well. So with that, I will turn it over to the commission, and Brad and I are happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. As Matt mentioned, that we have a DMF letter that received it dated April 27th. And the comments are the following. One, a new pier has the potential to negatively impact nearby shellfish resource and the fishery in a variety of ways. While some of these impacts can be avoided or reduced with the best management practices, others are unavoidable and will result in permanent impacts to shellfish habitat and associated fishery access. Supporting piles would directly displace salt marsh habitat, and piles may cause further indirect impacts that negatively affects the bordering salt marsh and shellfish habitat. Leachate from any pressure-treated woods used for the support piles or decking may also negatively impact nearby shellfish. Associated boating activity could result in prop dredging if the boat is installed in any sufficient water depths relative to the size of the vessel using the structure. The support piles, floats, and adjacent footprint will likely not be accessible to commercial or recreational fishery. The second comment is the narrative state that the dock constructions were incorporated with a water jetting approach. Jetting piles can cause scouring in the habitat surrounding the installed piles that can persist for years post-constructions. DMF recommending using a vibrator hammer with a slow start approach for pile driving instead of a jetting to minimize the habitat disturbance. And then DMF also have that with height and the width ratios about the height of the walkway. The other, if approved, any activity required, a bar should be restricted to 2 hours before and after the high tide to prevent the barge grounding in marine habitat. Matt, the major question that I have under your applications, you are assuming that we are using a 12-inch roof for this area. But if I look at the shellfish rating for this area, from the shellfish committee is like 6 out of 10. Am I reading it right? 6 out of 10 is kind of significant as a 30-inch.
Yeah, I think on the maps you'll see, yeah, it is a 6. It's kind of at the edge from going from high to low on the maps. But I think with that, based on Brad's shellfish study, I'm going to let him maybe expound on the reasoning there. Brad, could you?
Sure, I can add in. Good evening, members of the commission. We performed a shellfish survey with Paul Caruso at the site in October. We did find a moderate number of soft shell clams just below the mean low water line, out to about 1.5 feet mean low water. At that point, the substrate turns and the material and depth change, and it's not suitable habitat. So our thought was that by getting out further, as Matt has designed it, where we can span over that soft shell clam area, and there were no quahogs found in deeper waters that you might find, such in this area. So the rating of 6, I think yes, you're correct, but that area does change if you go a little bit further north to the lower grade designation. And I did look, the area is closed to shellfishing now. I don't know if that has a bearing on it, but our thought was that by spanning over that moderate number of soft shells there, that we could get to that depth and make it work.
Thank you, Brett. Ed, in the file, I did not see any town Liz Lewis report on this area in terms of the the shellfish report. Is it correct?
That's correct. We have not gotten anything from Liz on that one. I don't think she had gone out to look at that one yet. This one is scheduled for a hearing at the Shellfish Committee on the 13th of May. So we haven't gotten anything from Shellfish Committee either.
Okay. Question, Bill?
Those are the questions that I had. I would want to hear from Liz Lewis on this. I'd want to hear from the Shellfish Committee. I personally always thought that Shoestring Bay was kind of a muddy place that was not that good a habitat. And I'm wondering if they did assess it back that 3 or 4 year ago survey, which seemed to be more complete, more people that were voting. And I feel uncomfortable going with a 12-inch. If we have a 6-inch rating right now, I think Liz's word would be very helpful, or the committee. I'm kind of, that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. That's why I typically go back and try to look at what is the shellfish rating for this area for those shellfish map stuff. Angela.
Yeah, I agree with Bill and you, Tom, that I'm not comfortable with this not going through our shellfish, and it wasn't on the agenda for the 8th, so it must be on the meeting that's coming up. Thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner?
I do have one. That thing that you read, that was DMF, is that right?
Yeah.
That was a DMF. So we have not heard from Liz yet. I mean, I think that's important that she be contacted and otherwise weigh in.
No, I know. I'm probably asking for a continuance, but I just...
Absolutely. And I anticipated that. I discussed that with Ed as well. We thought it was best to, I'd like to, we wanted to open up the hearing to see if there was any other thoughts or comments that you had. And then, I expected for it to be a continuance until we can get in front of the Shellfish Committee.
Right. 10:18, any public comment on this one?
None.
None? Matt, how much time do you need for the continuance?
So the meeting with Shellfish is on the 13th. So
you want to do the 19th?
The 19th should work. Yeah. I mean, are there any other comments? I mean, once we, hopefully, get the Shellfish comments, is there anything else for us to be aware of at this point in time, or we can, after we get the Shellfish comments, discuss that further on the 19th?
I'd like to hear, excuse me, if Liz Lewis's comments would be important to me, more than the Shellfish Committee. I shouldn't say that, but
no, I know. But I mean, she would provide a report.
Yeah.
Before that, so 19 would have enough time for that. Right. Could I have a motion to continue this application to May 19th?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
DeMello.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Nampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. Motion carries to continuance to May 19th, 3 p.m.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Brett.
Thank you all very much.
Yep.
Good night.
Yep, good night. We have one remanded notice of intent, Bluefield LLC, to permit a proposed seasonal ramp and float at 571 Old Post Road, Contoured as shown on the assessors map 054 parcel 018. And this is the applicant has request for a continuance without testimony to May 12th. Could I have a motion to continue these applications to May 12th without testimony?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
DeMello.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Oh, no. I wasn't eligible for this one. Still unanimous. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're eligible. We did not open it. Bluefield.
Right.
Angela.
Got it. It's the continuance.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was ahead of myself on my sheet.
So the next one is the continuance one is the Henry Blair, trustee Henry A. Blair and Raymond M. Murphy Trust, maintenance dredging of Millway Marina at 275, 277, and 295 Millway Road, Barnstable, as shown on Assessors Map 301, Parcel 063-001, 063-002, and 065-001. And this is a continuance from March the 17th and April the 14th. I think the commissioner is everyone for the quorum. Angela, you're a part of this, right? Just want to double check.
Yeah, the continuance moved. It doesn't matter. I'm going to abstain, so we'll just go through it just for clarity.
We have the comment from the Shellfish Committee, and they have no objections to this for Shellfish Committee. And the waterway is okay with this project. And we also received the DMF letter, and that was dated March 20th. And one of the comment would be the time of the year restrictions for this projects. The work low in water silt producing activities such as dredging should take place from February 1st to June 30th of any year. However, work may take place from February 1st to April 31st if the proposed silt curtain is installed prior to February 1st. And DMF recommends that the top of the slope be no closer than 25 feet from the mean low water line. Dredging to the toe of the slope near the mean low water line may result in a slumping of the intertidal habitat. The dredging footprint is as proposed does not meet the recommendations. I think the consultant has addressed that questions, right? Charlie, are you here?
Hey, this is Paul Mancuso. Charlie is not here tonight, but I'm here to represent for Millway.
Okay. I think Charlie kind of addressing some of the comment from DMF. Am I correct?
I believe he did. If you have that, I would go with what he said, but I think it's because the mean low water line is on the bulkhead, so there's not going to be slumping because it's a vertical bulkhead. That would be if there was more of like a natural, bank or beach or something, but there's a bulkhead, so something wouldn't occur.
Okay.
In that area.
Ed, is that correct? Is there any other thing that I need to read into the record as part of the conditions?
Just checking my notes here, making sure we got everything. And I think we're good. And then the only other thing is, again, I mean, the DMF asked about put a condition about any activities requiring a barge 2 hours either side of high tide, but
right.
That's the only other thing I can see.
Okay. Yeah, if approved, any activity requiring a barge should be restricted to 2 hours before and after high tide to prevent the barge grounding in the marine habitat. And the other one is that we need a bathymetry once after the dredging is done.
After 1 year.
Yeah, yep. After 1 year. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Think none.
Could I have a motion to approve these projects with those conditions that I mentioned from the DMF as well as the bathymetry survey 1 year after the dredging is done?
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
DeMello.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Koshulik.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, I'm abstaining for clarity, and that passes and is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. We have one easy certificate of compliance. It's Tim and Mary Boer, SE3-5596. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Koshulik,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
We have one set of minutes, April the 14th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for April 14th.
Second.
Roll call.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Koshulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Our next hearing is at 6:30 on May 12th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
DeMello,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Koshulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair. It's 8:35.
Yep. We adjourn at 8:35.